Okay. Hello, everybody. First, thank you all for attending this and being on the panel today. I think we'll just start off giving, we'll walk down the line here. Everyone introduce yourselves, introduce your respective companies, and then we'll kind of open up the conversation.
Sounds good. So I'll kick things off. My name is Trevor Filter. I'm one of the co-founders of Flexa. Flexa is a crypto payments processor. We support payments in-store and online for 99 different digital assets, and we have been in business for about 5 years. We work with and specialize in supporting Fortune 500 companies and accepting digital currencies. So we work with Chipotle, Nordstrom, Bed Bath & Beyond, GameStop, and a few others. Really excited to be here and talk about what these baby steps we're taking look like and how we can move forward.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacques. I'm Chief Metaverse Officer at Ramp. Ramp is the easiest and cheapest way for you to onboard your users to your NFT projects, dApps, wallets, any application, blockchain gaming applications that you're building on chain. We support 150 different countries, allowing you to onboard a user using credit card, debit card, or bank payments. And we work with great partners like Trust Wallet, Exodus, Brave Browser, GameStop, and a whole bunch more. So very excited to be here, and yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eowyn Chen. I'm the CEO for Trust Wallet. So Trust Wallet right now is the world's largest mobile non-custodial wallet. We have about 60 million downloads globally, and 10 million are still active nowadays in the bear market. And we're a multi-chain wallet that supports EVM and non-EVMs, 68 chains altogether, 6 chains for NFT, and users can have one-stop shop to host their tokens, up to 6 million of them, and then can also host NFTs, access and browse the different Web3 applications. So for us, when we were founded back in 2017, the whole idea is to create an easy user experiences. And how to make that easy without sacrificing self-custody, like the full control of ownership, security, privacy is what we're driving towards. And of course, with so much big of a user basis, we're thinking about how to help the 10 million users better use crypto. That's why payment, e-commerce, anything that helps beyond just the speculation is something that we care about.
My name is Donnie Dinch, CEO of Bitski. We're an NFT wallet kind of built for the next 100 million people. And so in the same vein as a lot of the other projects here, really building tools and services to help bring people that are not totally crypto savvy, that may not be comfortable with self-custody or just not even understand blockchain, but are really excited about NFTs and digital assets. In addition to the wallet, we also have some ancillary tools that we've built with Commerce Platform. We've worked with Adidas, Levi's, US Open, a lot of other large brands to help them distribute NFTs at scale to their audiences.
That's awesome. Thanks for the introduction, you guys. So one of the really interesting things about crypto is how far we've evolved, right? We've come a long way from Satoshi's white paper talking about peer-to-peer payments to now, on the stage here, we've got wallets, we're talking about NFTs, we're talking about fiat on-ramps and off-ramps. So I'm very curious to hear from each of your perspectives, how would you consider your role in this payments e-commerce space, and how do you think it's an evolution of like that original thesis of peer-to-peer payments? So again, we'll kind of walk down the line here.
Sounds good. I remember reading the Bitcoin white paper and thinking this is going to happen tomorrow. Like brands and big businesses are going to start adopting digital currencies, and 5 years from now we'll all be spending these, and 90% of the global financial infrastructure will be using some kind of distributed ledger, and this is going to be amazing. And here we are 13, 14 years later, and that's still yet to be the case. But I still do think it's 5 to 10 years around the corner that 90% of financial infrastructure will be using a ledger. I think what I underestimated at the time, and I think is still really the case, is that there is so much friction attached to the existing structures and systems of e-commerce and payments, and you have these organizations who have built themselves around 70 years of credit card infrastructure, and these businesses have then promulgated that ownership across their entire organization. So you have risk management, treasury, compliance, IT, all these different departments with sometimes hundreds of people who now have to transition to a completely different way of doing things. And I know that all of us, I mean, I've used all the products on this stage, and all of us have had to do different we've had to develop different approaches to how we would adopt digital assets for our own purposes, or how we would transition customers from one way of doing things to this new way of doing things that we all know is fundamentally better and more long-term. And Flexa views our role as very, very simple. We just are trying to enable this off-ramp of crypto to merchant treasuries, essentially, and enabling the payment for goods and services in as many currencies as we can. We like to say that our vision is any app, any asset, anywhere, and that's something we're going to keep working at until we can get it done.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump off, piggyback of what Trevor said. You know, when I read the Bitcoin white paper as well, I sort of had an opposite reaction. Like I thought this is gonna take forever to adopt, because my first company was building something called Bitat. Basically, we're just getting companies to pay artists to create art for Bitcoin, because getting Bitcoin was so difficult. You had to go to shady exchanges, and you get hacked sometimes. You lost your private key, and that's still the case today. So there's a lot of work needs to be done, and 10 years on, that's still the work that we're all doing here. But I think there is a difference between doing what Trevor's doing with Flexa, which is enabling that original vision of the Satoshi, which is for it to be a cash payment system, to now where we actually have a large digital ecosystem of applications that are natively blockchain. And right now, the problem Ramp is trying to solve is how do we enable access, people's access to these new applications in a way that's comfortable to them. They want to pay with credit card. They want to pay with bank transfers. They want to be able to move in and out of these assets easily. And that's a very straightforward problem, but it requires a very complex solution. So that's what we're at the forefront of trying to figure out.
Yeah, so when I was first inspired by Bitcoin's white paper, I think the revolutionary part is how do we build that trustless? And then the original goal was a peer-to-peer payment. But we all know that Bitcoin right now exists as an asset class. And so does a lot of other cryptos. And I think that's the current stage that we're in, is because we're still mostly, or at least the world right now, still consider crypto as an assets class. Even we're chatting offline, right? I would say that what drives each of the bull and bear market, at least the trigger of the bull market, we said that it's because of a new asset class emerges, and then that triggers a bull round. Even with the ERC 721, the NFT, but right now when we're describing it, we unconsciously describe that as an assets class too. So when we're describing that as an assets class, what's a human psychology? We're mostly thinking about it as an investment purposes. Right? And investment in the economy of a society is just one of the 4 pillars. And that has been what's been most mature in the industry. That's why we see crypto exchanges do the best, because they serve this kind of a utility or the purpose of the industry's assets, liquidity at the moment. So just for context, I used to lead the marketing at Binance side globally, but what triggered me to move from the centralized crypto exchanges to helping out building the decentralized wallet entrance space is because I do see that the space is at the pivotal moment that we're gonna diversify from just the assets class. We're seeing potentially more utilities coming in. We're seeing more usage coming in. And even with the crypto asset class occupying more percentages of the world, well, it's still small, like 3%. But we see some of the people are primarily holding their assets in crypto. Then they don't want just hold it for investment purposes. People want to use it. And that's where payment comes into will be very important, is it enables the utility and the usage to the next level. So I think that no matter that Bitcoin is going to realize that goal, which we all know that it has its own limitations, or any other type of crypto format, stablecoin, something else that's going to realize the payment, liquidity, stability, medium of exchange, that's going to be the foundation to power the Web3 space to grow when the utility really flourishes in the space. And for us, what we're seeing is that people used to just use wallets to hold assets, right? That was our original mission 5 years ago, is one place for you to hold all the crypto assets. But going forward, I think for a wallet, we no longer just become a good good UI for people to access their assets on chain. We're going to become the window for people to better interact and utilizes all the Web3 decentralized applications going forward. So we're going to pivot accordingly as well with all the payment infrastructures that can power the growth of the dApps. That's my current thought process.
Awesome. I'll just add really quickly. I think that we spent a long time building a lot of tools to really bridge Web 2 payment methods to Web 3, whether it's on-ramps. And it's really tricky because I think the outcome for most people is still a little, like outside of if you're going to think of buying tokens as an investment asset, I think obviously that works well, used to. But I think that when you want people to use NFTs, when you want people to do things with their assets, like it's just a different way that they need to be distributed. So I think that, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gabe Ledden, but he was mentioning this the other day on a podcast that I think most people, like we spend a lot of time trying to get, the transition from fiat to cryptocurrencies. I think it's going to get it kind of Trojan horsed through digital goods. And you're going to get digital goods for free, or you're going to buy them on a place like Bitski with a credit card, and then you're going to eventually be able to convert those to ETH or to whichever token you want. And I think at a very, very large scale, I think you're going to see gaming heavily influence this, where you see the biggest transition of someone from a fiat currency to living with more digital currencies. I'm doing something in a game, I'm very, very good at it, I'm earning all this money. Now there's an impetus for me to actually want to go use it. So I think that it's almost after, we've been working on this since 2018. I think it's just a little bit of a different approach that it's not just about how, Ramp is obviously wonderful and Flexa, but I think it's also, what are the other sort of out of the box sort of, methods in which people are going to accrue these currencies. And I think, by way of digital goods and gaming is probably going to be a big aspect of that.
Those are all great responses. So kind of following up with this concept of getting to the utility, right, escaping from the speculation and building the user experiences that people will start to just naturally engage with, return to the concept of crypto as a Trojan horse, right? How do you work in what can be a very complicated design space, right? You have to deal with crypto as an emergent system with new designs, new tokenomics, new ERC20 token standards, NFT standards, but you also have to sometimes work in this traditional finance realm where you have to deal with ACH, traditional plumbing. It must be a very complicated issue to balance both of those design spaces and the compromises you may have to make. So I'm very curious to hear how you guys have adapted and learned to work through two very different ecosystems to create that experience that users really will adopt and grow to love. So yeah, go for it in any order.
Yeah, so I'll just go and say, so I think a big thing is, number one, staying outcome oriented. What is it that you're trying to enable? Outside, don't get overly excited about the medium or even, the token or whatever, but what experience are you trying to provide for new users? I think blockchain is, it's a new primitive of the internet. Ownership is now this new primitive. What does that mean? What can people do with that? And if you have that as sort of the North Star, I think a lot of the other pieces are a little bit easier to fall in place. And also, don't get lost in the sauce. In a lot of ways, you have to really be pragmatic. I think, for us, creating a marketplace where you could buy NFTs with a credit card that were automatically minted, that required, a lot of programmatic wallet infrastructure, that required, a lot of deep technical knowledge to make something that otherwise just feels really fucking normal just to buy with a credit card. So I think that's really the bridge. And I think when you're getting, whether it's a game or whether it's an institution, to get them excited about digital assets, it really is focusing on the outcome. Why, what new experiences or, what new revenue channels are you unlocking with this, or what new economic, opportunities are you creating? That's been how we've balanced it the most.
And probably add on to that a little bit, because I think the outcome is so important, and part of helping to guide toward a specific outcome is keeping in mind who your customers are. So a lot of our efforts at Flexa have been in figuring out, are we focused on the consumer? Are we focused on the merchant? And we've generally leaned toward merchants because we believe that they have perhaps the most opportunity in terms of what can be gained from a transition to digital assets. So there's this aspect of determining your audience and really just continuing to make product decisions on the basis of how that benefits the audience. And then I think there's this aspect. It's funny when you said lost in the sauce, it made me think of this secret sauce that we often talk about around simplifying and distilling something down to its essence. And sometimes you'll hear about this as first principles. Sometimes you'll hear about it as just trying to continue to refine until you get to the bare bones of something. But one example that comes to mind is the idea of being able to choose from the cards in your wallet. So when you're spending at a real store, choosing from the cards in your wallet is determining which credit card is going to give you the most points, or which one you have the highest balance on. There is an analogy to that in crypto, but it's not super obvious. It's choosing from the assets in your wallet. And if a payment experience can give you a list of all the assets in your wallet mapped to whatever that merchant's accepting, that's that kind of distillation that makes this feel obvious and intuitive and inevitable. And so we really do focus on, I think in that order, outcomes, audience, and then how do we simplify or distill this down into something that's actually going to be adopted and get us closer to that mainstream experience. And oftentimes it doesn't involve leading with crypto or blockchain or other acronyms. It really does involve focusing on the experience and again, that outcome.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that, Ramp, a lot of our customers are first-time crypto purchasers or first-time users that are exposed to crypto for the very first time. With that, I think the challenge is not so much in the technology, because we have very good engineers. Web2 the difficulty is connecting that Web2 stack to the Web3 stack when it comes to tech, but also the regulations and compliance, right? To make all this feel seamless and make sense, that takes a lot of work. When we do it, for example, Ramp, we have a KYC process, right? It's required because anytime the regulation is that anytime you're entering the cryptocurrencies, you have to provide these proof. Because you're dealing with traditional finance, you have to provide these proof to them. How do you make that KYC process seamless and very easy to use, right? Because right now, like when you go to a game and you want to purchase an in-game asset, no one's expecting to be asked for their ID, right? So sort of explaining that, but also making that process feel a lot easier than it is in person, or than it is otherwise compared to traditional exchanges system, is really how we're gonna be able to get adoption into these wallets, into NFT projects, into games. So the user experience to us is much more critical when it comes to onboarding users.
I think all the speakers had great input, so I'm not gonna repeat what they said. I'm gonna chime in from a different angle, which is what is our industry's product filling the gaps of the off-chain world? So I recently was chatting with the Binance charity team, and I got really inspired. And she said that, when they were giving out donations, crypto donations to Afghanistan recently, they realized that because of the local turbulent issues that happens over there, people don't have the IDs that can pass most of the financial infrastructures or institutions. So they cannot even receive grants in the traditional sense, or donations. So they cannot even go to Binance.com because Binance.com will require the KYC and identification for compliance reasons, and they just cannot fulfill it. And in the end, what they adopted is that they use Trust Wallet, that they give crypto donation directly to the refugees' crypto wallets, that they use it. They even have an intern who's helping out in Afghanistan. She also could not figure it out, so she get her payroll in Trust Wallet. And that to me was a very powerful story that we do feel in the spot for the unbanked when the Web2 world or the off-chain world, despite all the goodwills to try to do things in the right process or the right way, but we're in the United States, we're blessed to have a pretty good financial infrastructures underneath here, but not the majority of the world. And I do see that for a product like us, make the most impact and positive influences for the users over there. Another story was similarly that when the Ukraine war situation happened, we do see a huge spike of our wallets usage happening in Ukraine. It's not because of people just doesn't want to go through the normal channels. They would, because that's more trustworthy. It's when in some of the really unforeseen circumstances that comes out, the power of self-custody and easy access to it that people understand, can use, and can still rely on as a last resort to have their assets being under their control, or something really powerful. So we will absolutely love to work with the fundamental infrastructure, the systems, the fiat rails, all those to make the Web 2, Web 3, the off-chain, on-chain world as smooth as possible. But I also wanted to urge that when sometimes the infrastructure is just not there, for the outcomes that we want to get to, then we just need to adopt whatever means to get to the users to make a positive impact.
That's an incredible story, and I'd love to kind of dig into that just a touch more because, although it's a very tragic thing that leads to this new outcome and this crypto adoption, that's a very unspoken to class of people who become crypto native from the start, right? Like these wallets that pop up and are you can't necessarily see that on ramp. You can't necessarily see them come on. This is a crypto origination and like a level of empowerment and hopefully safety for people in tough situations. So how do all of you think about, we've talked a lot about that, fiat to crypto transition, bringing on new users, but how do you guys think about the emergence of these crypto native users who are empowered in a new way, and how do you create the experiences and tools that are able to help them out in the various situations they may be in?
I'll say from like a product perspective, you really have to progressively expose complexity, at least from a wallet. A great inspiration I think is Robinhood. I think when Robinhood first launched, any professional trader or already had a brokerage account wasn't really taking Robinhood seriously. And over the years, they started adding more complicated methods for options trading. They really just started ratcheting up the type of things that you could do in there. But if you're still a new person, you've never traded a stock, you can install Robinhood today and not be overwhelmed and confused. And so I think it comes down to great product design, recognizing that you do have this core audience of people that are familiar with a lot of the primitives that are in the space now, but don't allow that to get in the way of bringing new users on board into your product. So for us, it really just comes down to just being really empathetic in the way that we think about architecting the product.
Yeah, for Ramp, you talk about the cases of distributing the tokens to all these local communities, but again, turning that crypto into fiat is also a challenge, and that's a big focus for us right now. Is we want to be able to be present in all these countries that are that have these crypto native and give them a way not only into the crypto ecosystem or receive funding from ecosystem, but way to translate that into real world usage to pay for groceries or whatever the case may be, just sustain themselves. So that's the #1 priority for us at the moment.
I think at Flexa we have developed a knack for going all the way down to the base level of requirements, and I'm thinking specifically about compliance because I think KYC has come up as a barrier a lot, and trying to tease out what exactly do we need to collect here, and what about that is entrenched in the existing system and maybe linked back to something because something's a financial institution or a reason that doesn't need to be necessarily constraining crypto, and what if that actually has a genuine reason for existing. And so KYC is a great example. We have built out this tiered approach that allows people to access Flexa and make payments by just providing their name and email address, and that's really, really important for us to be able to do compliantly because we can't have anything blow back on our merchant partners who are some of the biggest businesses in the world. But also we can't prevent people from being able to access this network because then we're just going to entrench the same systems that exist today. And so as far as I'm concerned, we're never going to require someone to give us their social security number. It's not a credit card application. This is just engaging with the different types of assets that you use and maybe collect on the internet or through gaming applications and are part of your everyday. How do we make that more accessible, and how do we make sure we're not excluding anybody in the process? I think it's a big focus.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think we've pretty much come up on time here. Just real quick, thank you all again for coming. Thank you all so much for being builders in this space. It's awesome to see how we can empower people and the crypto baby steps start to get some of these things right. So thank you, everybody.